So here's the question. As a real estate investor, how do you build a business that you're excited to show up to every day while you constantly grow your stream of passive income that you and your family can depend on for life without having to leave your computer or even live somewhere that houses are affordable? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. Welcome to the Virtual Real Estate Investing Podcast with your host, Brian Elwood.
What's up, everybody? Brian Elwood here. Welcome back to the show. I hope wherever everybody is today, they are staying warm. I don't know where you live, but here in Denver, Colorado, it's snowing in October. And I think this is the second or third time it has snowed here this season already. The funny part is anytime the snow ends, the sun comes back out and you got beautiful blue skies and it becomes 60 to 70 degrees again and beautiful. So it kind of alternates like that quite a bit here. And I've actually already gone snowboarding once a couple weeks ago. So today, when I'm recording this, it's October 30th. And it was middle of October when the first ski resort opened out here. So one of the crazy things people don't realize is that you can literally ski from the month of October, sometimes into the month of May out here. Admittedly, those early and late months aren't that great condition-wise, but you can still get your turns in. So what does that leave? June, July, August, September. Only 4 months out of the year that you absolutely can't ski/snowboard. So if you are a winter sports kind of enthusiast, then living out here is the perfect fit for you. So on today's episode, I want to talk about doing deals creatively. I want to just basically break down a creative deal that I just did, just to encourage you guys to think outside the box when you're doing your real estate deals. There's really no specific rules to this game. It's just about getting creative and doing whatever it takes to hit your goals. So here's the story. My business partner and I co-owned a house in Columbia, Tennessee. It's around 1,800 square feet, 4-bedroom, 1 bath, worth about $125,000. I think we paid more like $75 for it or so. And the rents are anywhere from $1,000 to $1,200. But I mentioned that it was a 4-1. One of those bedrooms is actually downstairs and it's sectioned off into its own efficiency unit, which means it has a door that closes it off. It has its own kitchen. It even has a gas fireplace down there and its own bathroom, but it's small and it has a separate entrance on the outside of the house, but the utilities are not separate. They're tied into the main house. So it's not technically a duplex. And the whole house, including the efficiency unit, needs about $10,000 to be rent ready. So my business partner came to me and he said, I want to liquidate this house and get the cash out of it. I think we should sell it. And I actually wanted to keep it because I always want to hold on to good rentals if I can. And I do believe in this area and this neighborhood to get nicer in the future. And since he wanted to sell it and I wanted to keep it, I had to get creative, right? Because I could have just went along with what he said and sold it. It would have been nice, certainly, to get the cash out of that house. We did not have a mortgage on it. And like I said, it was worth $125 or so. But if we sold it, we would split the money and then we would both pay taxes on it. So what I did is I proposed to buy my business partner out and to buy out his half of the house, and then I would own it outright. So we calculated an amount that he would be comfortable with for me to give him, for him to sign over his ownership to me. And then I called up a private money lender and told him I would like X amount of dollars to buy out my business partner. Got that deal lined up with some terms that I could live with. I think it was 3 points and 9% 5 months. So I'm going to refi within the next 5 months and pay off that lender and have a bank loan on it. But I went with the private money lender just to get it done quickly and easily and pay a little extra to have that done. So a couple weeks ago, closed, bought out my business partner to where I own the house outright. So that was creativity part one. And the second part is something that I don't deserve any credit for because it was all in the hands of my right-hand man, business partner, Danny Coleman, who works with me in both the education business and my investing business. So Danny owns a house in Columbia, Tennessee, that he bought probably a year or so ago. And he lives there. And he really wants to become an investor, obviously, because he's around what we do every day and really wants to get into the game and get his first rental property. But he wasn't ready to slap down a big down payment, but he was desperate to get in the game. So when he found out that I was buying this house there in Columbia, Tennessee, which is where he lives, he started thinking. And he came to me and said, Brian, I want to live in that house as a tenant that you're buying there. I went and checked it out with my wife and we'd be comfortable living there. And I want to rent out my current house. And that's how I can get my first rental property. And he was really excited about it. And he also identified that the efficiency unit in the basement of this house was really, an asset we hadn't considered. And he wanted to get that fixed up and then have my permission to rent it out to a friend of his and keep the money to offset the rent that he was going to be paying me. And in exchange for me letting him do that, he agreed to, first of all, be the property manager for the house so that I don't have to pay 10% to somebody else, which will save me, over $1,000 a year. But also, while he lives there as a tenant, to get the house converted into an official duplex with 2 separate meters so that when he moves out in a couple years, I can rent the efficiency unit separate from the main house. And I will have to do certain things to code, like get a firewall installed between the 2 units, get the 2 meters, etc. But I've got a couple years to kind of spread out the cost of that. So by Danny's his main goal by the end of this year was, I'm going to become a landlord. I'm going to make this happen. And when he saw this opportunity, he jumped on it and he had the courage to ask me for this, even though it might have been a little uncomfortable, to ask me for what he wanted and to propose it in a way that made enough sense for me to do it. And so now Danny he hasn't moved in yet, but he's moving in within 1 month. He's going to have his first rental, technically 2 rentals, because he's going to get to keep the money from that efficiency unit. And then, I get a house with no property management for 2 years. And then when he moves out, that thing will be a real duplex and probably will rent for up to $1,800 in total, which right now it's in the $1,000 to $200 range for the main house. And I can't, even if he didn't live there, I couldn't really rent out that efficiency unit separately because I don't think it's legal to do so. It's not technically a separate property with a separate meter and all that. And you can't really commingle the utilities of 2 tenants. And that agreement needs to be between the tenants, not involving you. So I just wanted to share that with you. There's really no limit to how creative you can get. I just finished a book called Set for Life by Scott Trench. He's the VP of Bigger Pockets. And he talks a lot in that book about house hacking. And it's this idea of, buying a house, fixing it up, renting it out, moving out of it and then renting it out and then rinse and repeat. And if you can get into duplexes, triplexes, and quads, then you really explode your house hacking because you can actually get like a first-time home buyer loan on anything up to a quadplex. They recognize anything 4 units and below as residential. So you can get the 3% down first time home buyer type loan on a 4-unit building. Isn't that crazy? And so you could buy a 4-unit building for 200 grand. So that's 40 grand that's 50 grand a unit. And then at 3% down, it would only cost you $6,000 on the down payment for a quadplex like that. You live in one of the units, rent out the other 3. If you live there for a year or 2, then you fulfilled your requirements by law and you can move out of the unit that you live in, rent it out, and then you've got all 4 units rented for $6,000 down. It's one of the best house hacking techniques you can do. And so Danny's, what he did wasn't exactly that, but it's a different version of that. And so I encourage you as a takeaway to think about how could you be creative? If you own the house you live in right now, could you move out of it and rent it out and live somewhere else and buy another house, use your bankability elsewhere? Could you buy a duplex or a triplex or a quad? What would that do to your financial status long term versus just staying where you're at? And another thing is, if you're thinking about buying a house and you're still on the pursuit of financial freedom, like most of us are, make sure that house that you buy could double as a rental in the event that you choose to move out of it. I had a buddy call me the other day he wanted some advice, about buying a house in Memphis, Tennessee. And I was like, dude, buy the cheapest house that you are cool with living in, where the rent makes sense, to where if you moved out of it and you run all the numbers, it would produce cash flow for you. Make sure it's in a good, safe neighborhood and all that for your family. But, really, if you want to take care of your finances, buy a house that will double as a rental when you move out. Then you're never tied to the house. You can always move out. You always have a plan B. Anytime you want to move, you say you want to move to a different house, or you just want to grab a rental by making it into a rental, or you want to move to an entirely different city like I did when I moved from Nashville to Denver, make sure that, if you can rent that house out, then you're not tied to it. In fact, it would be almost a good financial decision for you to move and then make it into an investment property. That's what I did with my house in Nashville. It's now an Airbnb that does really, really well, like I said a couple episodes ago. And, I could have just sold it when I moved here, because that's the mindset that most people have. When you move, you sell your house. But I don't sell anything unless I'm going to roll the proceeds into better investments. Otherwise, I do everything I can to keep every house, because buy and hold is what makes you wealthy. Thank you guys so much for listening. Like us on Facebook, Virtual Real Estate Investing. Go to iTunes. If you leave a review of this podcast, it really, really helps me get this message out to more people. And thank you for listening. I will see you on the next one.
Want more? Get your free copy of Brian's book that is changing real estate businesses everywhere. Just go to www.fireyourself.net. Also, register for your free virtual real estate investing online masterclass at virtualinvestingclass.com.